Hey, how's it going? Welcome to this Tuesday evening's Camera Shake Q&A live. It's the first time we're doing a bit of a live stream. I think it's something we tested a couple of weeks ago, and we thought this might be a nice thing to do once in a while. So here we are. I hope you're receiving this. This should be going out on Facebook in the Facebook group. So if you're if you're not on Facebook, then watch it on YouTube. So it should be going out on the Camera Shake podcast group on Facebook and on the YouTube channel as well. So if you are around, make sure leave a comment. Join in. Let me know that you're there, and that'd be great. And then I can, we can make this live stream happen together. Now, a lot of things have happened. It's, I thought we can give you a little update on the things that have happened this week on the podcast. We've had a really great episode come out last Thursday with Jerry Gionis, and that was a phenomenal episode. If you haven't listened or watched that yet, I highly recommend it. Go and check that out. Jerry is a legend in the wedding photography world, but also in the portrait photography world. So anything that's got anything to do with shooting humans, as it were, Jerry is the man. And his work has been incredible. Probably one of the most awarded photographers in the history of photography awards. And a super nice guy. It was a super fun interview. I thoroughly enjoyed it. As always, you've got to remember that I learn a lot of stuff talking to guests like Jerry. I certainly did learn a lot. If you're interested in in photographing, but if you're into wedding photography, or if you're interested in photographing just other humans, make sure you give Jerry a listen. It's just a treasure trove of awesome information. So a really cool episode. We've got some really awesome guests coming up over the next few weeks as well. I'm not going to give anything away, but make sure you tune in every Thursday, as per usual. Every Thursday around about 2 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. GMT, whatever that is. I have no idea what it is, Eastern time or Pacific time. If anybody's listening, then let me know. But okay, I'll just see if I can. Oops. I can hear myself. Hang on a second. That's weird. Okay. That's weird. Anyhow, technology failed today. Anyway, my cousin Sasha seems to be watching. Hey, man, how's it going? Hope you're having a good time. So what else is new in the world of Camera Shake podcast? We have a brand new sponsor on board. Obviously, that's been the big thing this week. And I'm so happy we managed to get Platypod on board as our brand new sponsor for the podcast. Platypod, if you don't know, and by the way, this isn't like, this isn't a Platypod sales show in no way, shape, or form. But I just wanted to give yourself an update on who the sponsor is, what they do, what they, the awesome stuff that they create, the really useful, awesome tools that they make for us photographers. And let me tell you that as far as sponsors for the podcast are concerned, it's really important to me that I really only have sponsors come on board that I really believe in. And in this case, as far as Platypod is concerned, not only as a company, but the products are incredible. And I've been using their products for quite a long time now. And so that's why I'm so super thrilled, so super happy to have Larry and the team come on board. In fact, we actually interviewed the CEO of Platypod, Larry Tiefenbrunn, in the past. So if you go back in the in the Camera Shake archives, have a look for the interview with Larry Tiefenbrunn, where he takes us through all the different really cool tools that they make, and also gives us a bit of a background on the history of Platypod as a company, which is also super interesting. There's some really cool stuff coming up on the Platypod YouTube channel, in the very, very near future. So within the next week or so, keep your eyes peeled because you might see some familiar faces on there. And there's going to be some really awesome content that I'm involved in creating as well that you'll be able to see there and learn from. Actually, that's the whole point. It's all about learning. So yeah, so with that in mind, I thought what I'll do is I'll go through some of the actually awesome tools that Platypod make. And if you're watching, if you've got any questions, if you want to leave any comments, then type that in the comments. No matter whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube, if you're watching this, just let me know. Cool. Hang on a second. Let's just make sure that I can see those as well. All right. Cool. Well, so the first thing, I think when people talk about Platypod, they usually talk about the Platypod. And I remember, in the very beginning, I didn't know what a platypod was. Like, what the hell is a platypod? So basically, to cut long story short, a platypod in itself is something that looks like this. This is the Platypod Extreme. What it is it's essentially a tripod. Well, it's kind of a tripod, but it's really a platform. So one of the problems that you often have as a photographer is that you can put your camera on a tripod, but what if you want to get a really low angle? Then you immediately have an issue because most tripods you can kind of, you can collapse the legs and everything, but you can't really get that close to the ground. In actual fact, there are only very few tripods where you can, it's usually a bit of an acrobatic act to get to spread these legs apart and everything. It's still a bit annoying, and it takes time. And the amount of times that I've pinched my fingers in these mechanisms is, I can't even count that. But so that's really one of the problems that the Platypod itself solves. It's basically a platform that you can connect your camera to. So you can basically put your camera on top, and you can do that you can use any any tripod head, any ball head, and connect it to that. I'm just going to give you an example. This is one that Platypod makes, but just to give you an example, see how that works. So essentially, it's a platform. You screw your tripod head on there, and then your camera goes on the top, and that's it. And so you can now take this and set this down anywhere. So you can get super close to the ground, and you can still change the angle by using your tripod head. So you can still get, you're fully flexible, just like you would be on any regular standard tripod. But with this, you can get super close, super close to the ground. And what that means is you can now put your camera in places that you really previously couldn't really get your camera in. Like, let's say, for instance, you want to do a shot, from inside of a fridge. Just think of that kind of shot. The camera is inside of the fridge shooting out, and you're there opening the door, and you've got little food items or whatever in front of you, and your face looking into the refrigerator. That's something now that you can do really easily with that. And again, it's a standard screw mount, so it takes any tripod head. In fact, you can attach all sorts of different accessories to that, but more about that in a minute. So if you already have a ball head or something like that, maybe a Benro ball head or maybe a Manfrotto ball head or whatever it may be, then you can already attach that. You don't need to necessarily buy anything other than this thing. That's very cool. Now, but there's much more to this, because other than just being able to put this flat on the ground, you can also create a stable platform on all sorts of different surfaces. So just imagine you're on ice or on rock or on anything like that. What you can do is it's got these little spikes. And the really cool thing about that is it's a very cool mechanism. It's like a spring-loaded mechanism. You can just basically flip those out in absolutely no time at all. And then you can set this down on any surface. So if it's, if you're somewhere in the north, in the Nordic countries or something like that, and you're photographing, I don't know, icebergs, something like that, you can use these spikes, and you can create a really stable platform. Same thing when you're, let's say, in a rocky area, let's say you're on a beach or something like that. You can just simply get these spikes out. They have little caps on. If I take that cap off, I don't know if you can see it, but these are actually super sharp. So you can literally stick this thing down and it will be rock solid. And you can create a level platform as well. That's the other cool thing, because these actually screw in and out. And so if you need to adjust, your platypod a little bit, because maybe it's not maybe the ground isn't 100% level or something like that, and you want to just create a really level platform, super easy, absolutely no problem. It takes 2 seconds. And these also have these rubber feet, so you could actually flip the whole thing around. And if you want to set this down, let's say on a table or something, then you can actually do it the other way around as well, and you get these little rubber feet. So again, absolutely super easy. And I'll tell you what I love about this. And this is really why I originally got one of those, is because I love these for traveling. So rather than carrying around a tripod that's maybe attached to my backpack or something like that, or even if I'm flying somewhere, I need to get that backpack into my luggage somehow, and that's a pain in the backside, as we say. So this thing comes in super handy. I recently went on a trip to Sweden, and there were very, very strict weight restrictions on that flight. It was stupid. It was 10. I think it was 10 kilos. That was it. So for those of you who fly frequently, 10 kilos. That's 20 pounds. That's nothing. That's a small bag, and the minute you've got your toothpaste and a toothbrush in there, especially if it's an electric toothbrush, that's pretty much half of your weight allowance gone right there. So anyway, so super easy. This weighs virtually almost nothing. It's super light. It's super flat as well. It easily fits into your luggage and in your backpack. And I love this thing. I didn't take a tripod to Sweden. I took this and a couple of other things that I'll talk about in a second. But that really solved a lot of problems, and it's super fun to use, super easy, weighs nothing. Awesome. There's the Platypod Extreme. This is a smaller version, by the way. I'll just show you here, which I've got something else mounted on. But basically, that's the smaller version. It's called the Platypod Ultra. That's even smaller. So if you got a small camera, like a little, like a tiny little, point and shoot or something like that, or even if you shoot on your phone, that's a very cool alternative. It's the Platypod Ultra. Oh, and before I move to something else, let me just tell you, there's a whole bunch of really awesome accessories with this, because not only can you use this as a platform on the ground, you can also, there's a strap that you can get for this that allows you to strap this thing to a tree or a banister or something like that. And then all of a sudden you can have you can literally, you can attach your camera to a tree. How crazy is that? That's awesome. So very useful thing. It's got lots of different holes in it as well. So you can attach, these are screw fixings basically. So you can attach lots of different accessories to it. You can really turn this into sort of a multi-purpose, multi-utility platform for different things. So, if you're, no matter whether you're into macro photography or whatever it may be, there's lots of cool stuff that you can attach to it. I use this a lot. I actually use this a lot. I use this a lot. In fact, you can't really see this, but basically, there are a lot of accessories that are attached to platypods around me every time I record a podcast episode. For instance, this, and again, you can't see that, but if you look on this side, hang on. If you look up here, you can see this little hair light. That's a little LED panel that's attached to a gooseneck, which is this sort of thing. Again, it's a very cool platypod accessory. It's a gooseneck, and that sits on a Platypod Ultra on that shelf behind me, and it basically, imagine there's an LED panel there, and then that lights the back of my head, and there you go. Super easy hair light. And if you're wondering, well, if I'm putting this on a Platypod Ultra, how does that stay safe? I've got a little clamp. I just clamp it to the desk, to the shelf even. No problemo. Works every time. Super safe. And, and it's flexible. I can move it around. If I need to move it to the left or to the right or up or down or whatever, then no problemo. Super easy. Goosenecks. I love these things. I mean, who doesn't love a gooseneck? These things are flipping awesome. I mean, just imagine the damage you could do with a gooseneck like this. That's crazy. Anyway, so again, there's lots of different stuff. These things are so cool because the screw mounts, really allow you to attach tons of different things. So this thing here, for instance, is, I don't know if you can see that, that's a little clamp. These are all the little accessories that I really use all the time. Like, what would I use a clamp for? Flags, reflectors, all that kind of stuff. Whatever. Anything I can clamp with this. I can put this on a platypod, for example, and then I can put a flag in there and I can just move that around. Super handy if you're shooting still life, products, all that kind of stuff, macro in a big way. I used this recently for some food photography and it was actually super awesome. In fact, I lit a pizza with an LED panel and 2 flags, which were held by goosenecks and these clamps. And I had a white reflector on the opposite side. That was it. Super easy. Absolutely took no time to set up. No problemo. Anyway, so these things are cool. There's a whole bunch of other accessories. There's this thing here, which is like a clamp. We all know these. I mean, most people use something like this, or rather, again, if you're doing things like, if you're attaching things to your tripod or to your camera or something, you've seen these before. These are elbows. If you're doing video, like, little exterior screens and stuff, there's always a need for something like this. And again, these little platypod elbows, what they're called, are super practical. You can use them for all sorts of different things. I love those as well. And again, they attach to everything. They can, you can attach them to a platypod or to other things. So that's very cool. And the latest thing, which if you've been, I don't know, if you've been on Instagram, then you may have come across this thing here. This is not a lightsaber. Let me tell you, well, although it does look like one, which is, again, in itself pretty cool, But what this actually is called the handle. And what it does is it allows you, it seems very simple, right? But hear me out, because this idea is very cool. So this basically allows you to mount all sorts of things to it. So first of all, you can mount a camera right on top, or you can mount, again, a ball head to the top. And so forth, we'll talk about this Ferrari red platter ball in just a second. But this handle is super awesome because it makes a lot of things really easy to do. Like, for example, let's say, for instance, if you're vlogging, right? This is super easy. So you've got a camera on top of there. You can extend it. Again, takes no time, so it extends to about this length. Again, if you're thinking this should be a lightsaber, you're not wrong. It should be. And you can also take this apart, so you can unscrew this and then make it half the length as well. So you really, it's 3 sizes. And what that is really, it's basically, it's either a handle or it's a razor. So you can raise things with it. So for example, if, let's say you've got, a platypod here and you need a slightly, this David Crooks, he says, I'm waiting for my handle. Yeah, I know. So, they're shipping out now. I know there's lots of people waiting for those. But let me tell you, you won't be disappointed because this thing is so awesomely cool. I can't tell you. I mean, this is like when I got the first one of these, I had to make a picture because it reminded me so much of a lightsaber. I had to get my friend Dave Williams in, and we made like a Star Wars like image with these because you have to. I don't know, it's compulsory. What else would you do with this? Obviously. So yeah, Dave, welcome to the live stream. Cool. So, well, what else can you do with this? Well, it's a razor. I use it all the time. I use it for my camera. That's one of the things I took to Sweden. In fact, I tell you what, I took 2 things except for my camera. So what did I take to Sweden? I took a Fuji X100F, which is a camera I love. I took a platypod even. I took a platypod extreme and I took a handle. I didn't even take a ball head. And the reason I didn't take a ball head was because I totally hit my 10 kilogram or 20 pound weight restriction. And it's literally, I could not take any more with me, any more gear. That was it. So a platypod extreme and a handle, and that was it. And so what you could do is, again, this has, different screw fixings in there. You can just very simply attach that to the Platypod. Super easy. Then, you could extend it further, or of course, like I said earlier, you just screw this, extend that. So you basically now get a whole number of different options in terms of height for your camera. And that's exactly what I did. I basically just, I put this down on the floor, on the ground. It was like one of these jetty things. We're at a lake just outside of Stockholm, and the little portrait thing there. And that was basically how I mounted my camera. Super easy. Again, and then the cool thing is, that basically it packs down like this. It weighs nothing. All I needed was a small bag. That was it. And I don't know where it is now. The Fuji X100F is a small camera. So it weighed nothing. It was super easy, super practical. So that's the handle. Oh, that's another really cool thing about this. So this handle, and again, I don't know if that's easy to see, but it has a whole bunch of, I think it's 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Yeah. So there's 8 little screw fixings in here. And what you can do is you can attach lots of different stuff to it. Like, for example, goosenecks. So now imagine you've got a camera on top of that. Maybe you need a light. Maybe if you're vlogging or something, and you're doing, there you go, that's it. Cool. So super sturdy, actually, if you if you use it right. Use the arrow, there you go. So you can now attach a light to that, put the camera on top, and you can move this around to any, into any position. It means you can, yeah, it's super portable, and you can take this around. It's great. It's fantastic. And you've got eight of those. So you can attach 8 goosenecks if you want to, if that's your thing. Or the elbows, or all sorts of other things, which in itself is very cool. What else have we got? But I think generally you get the idea. These products are super innovative, and they're really clever, and they really solve problems that you might come across as a photographer. Again, regardless as to whether you might be into landscape photography or into macro photography in particular. Toy photography, huge, right? Toy photography is a huge thing. You need to get your camera low to the ground. Very often toys are really small. These tools are perfect for that. But even if, for instance, if you're thinking, well, I'm a landscape photographer and, I need to take a tripod out. Yes, you do. But, that Platypod, for example, doesn't weigh anything. So you can just throw it in your backpack, and it immediately gives you the option of going for these really low angles. That's amazing. It takes absolutely no effort whatsoever. Super cool. What else have we got? Let's see. Oh, platypods. Okay. I think one of the first things, other than the Platypod, that I saw, I think it's probably a couple of years ago. I think it may have been at the photography show or somewhere, or maybe a friend showed me these, and I thought, like, what the heck is that? It's a ball head. It's basically a tripod head, right? But the weird thing about it is it's sort of upside down. It's, from a design perspective, they've made it almost like the wrong way around, until you realize that the wrong way around here means it's really the right way around. Because what this does is it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you move that. And what's very cool is, by the way, this is one thing that I hate most of the time on my older tripod heads, is the fact that there's always something to turn. There's a wheel to turn, like a screw to tighten, or something like that, or like a handle to twist in order to tighten the thing. You never know whether it's tight enough, and it's a pain in the neck. So with these ones, all you have is 2 buttons. That's it. 2 buttons. One button to loosen the whole thing. So now it's super flexible, and you can move, your camera in any position you want. And then you've got another button, and you literally, like, you pump that. I think from a haptic point of view, this is extremely satisfying, by the way. So if you're stressed, you can use this as a stress ball. Just do this. If you're like super stressed, just do that. It feels really good. So yeah, so it's a button to loosen, it's another button to tighten. Again, so you can, you can get your camera in any position you want. And if you just want to, uh, rotate the camera, then you've got this little wheel here that allows you just simply to turn your camera either left or right, and that again makes it super easy. And what is talking about innovation? This is really why I love these products. It's all about innovation. It's about thinking, okay, well, here's something that we know, like a tripod head, or like a plate. We'll talk about this little plate there in a minute. But how can we make this better? What are the issues with that? What are the annoying little quirks with that? And how can we make this better? Isn't there a better way that we can engineer our way out of problems? And this one here, I tell you what, this really did it for me. Because when I saw this, I thought, like, it's one of these facepalm moments. Traditionally, let me just see. Traditionally, what we've always done, I think, as photographers, when it comes to attaching a camera to a tripod, we've traditionally always done this. We've had a tripod plate here, and we attach this to the camera, and they're usually rectangular or square in shape. And then we're like trying to get this in the top of the tripod, and we're fiddling around, and there's always some knack to it. Like with the Manfrotto ones, they have like a slant, and you can just slide it in there. And I tell you, it's happened to me several times that I thought I had this tight, it was sitting tight inside of the tripod head, and then I let go, and then my camera drops down, and that's because these are tricky. So, and then of course, the other thing is, they usually have like a little screw thing here on the bottom, and you've got to screw this into the bottom of the camera, and then you always make sure it's super tight, and then you over tighten it half the time, and then when you're trying to take it off, you've got another problem. So this is such a cool little idea, because that's exactly the same thing. It's a tripod plate, but it's round. And I know what you're thinking. If you've never seen this before, you're thinking like, okay, well, what's the point in that? I'll tell you what's the point. Because you just put this in the bottom of your camera. There you go. Done. Tight. That's it. And if you want to take it off, it just screws right off. There you go. Was that the quickest you've ever put a tripod plate to a camera? I guess it probably was. There you go. Done. Should make speed competitions on this. And yeah, and these are Arca Swiss compatible, so they fit into any tripod head actually that has an Arca Swiss compatible, mount. They'll just fit right now. And of course, the top of the platteball. See, that's probably a little bit difficult to see, but if you look at that, that is the same sort of thing, and it just slides right in here. And I can even do this with one hand. There you go. And now my camera sits in there, totally safe, no problemo. And likewise, if I want to take this off, done. So that's how easy it can be, and that is what I love about Platypod products. And again, this isn't like this might come across as like a bit of a sales pitch. It really is not. I'm just really thrilled that we managed to get Platypod on board as a sponsor, because I personally really love these products, and I use them. I use all of them, as you can see. I use them all the time, and that's why I think this is a match made in heaven. Anyway, cool. So there's a whole bunch of other things. I tell you what, that's another cool thing. Again, you look at these things, and there's always something else that you find that's actually really cool. So when you're for all of your landscape shooters out there, one thing you'll know probably is one issue that that you'll have once in a while is that you set up your tripod, and then you're trying to level out your camera, and you can use a little built-in level sometimes. But even with with this Plattyball, they've made it even easier, because all you got to do is with this is called the Plattyball Elite. So one of the things that happens is it's got a little built-in electronic level. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a little cross, and you can basically level this out. And I can't really do this by looking at the screen. It's a little tricky, but there you go. So you can get this to the point where they all line up, and then this is 100% level, which again, super cool. That's the Platypod Elite. There's another one, the Platypod Ergo, which is basically the same thing. It just doesn't have the leveler. So it's the same thing. It's really quite ergonomic. Of course, the back of it is shaped slightly differently because it doesn't have the screen on the back. So, this is really quite comfy, and it really fits into your hand really well. So you can, again, because that's how you would operate it most of the time. You basically just have one finger on the one button and another finger on the other button, and then you'd essentially move it around. Okay, David says, I have the Platypod, and one time I put my tripod on my shoulder, and the button fell to. Oh, okay. The one where I put my tripod. Oh, okay, cool. Right. I mean, obviously, you got to make sure you tighten this, properly. That's the thing. If that's really tight, then that's not going to move. I'll tell you what. That actually, the very same thing happened to me with a Manfrotto tripod. That was super scary and actually super annoying. I remember this was a few years ago. I was shooting an event, and it was, what was it? It was a sober rave. That's what it was. Yeah, I was shooting a sober rave. So it's like a full-on rave. And it was across two venues. So it was like one venue here, and then there was like a little parking lot, and there was another venue there. And yeah, your camera fell to the ground. Yeah, mine did too. It was like, it was a rave, and I had to basically rush around to get from one place to another. And I used my Manfrotto tripod with the Manfrotto head and the Manfrotto mount. And a similar thing actually happened. I picked up my camera with a tripod, I put it on my shoulder, I ran over to the other venue, and as I'm running over, the camera comes loose off the tripod, hits the ground, and it was I think it was a 24-70 2.8 on it, and that didn't like that fall at all. In fact, this camera, I mean, I'm amazed how robust these things are. There's still a few battle scars from that particular incident on this body, actually. It's this body that hit the ground. So, if that teaches us a lesson, it's, always make sure you tighten your tripod heads as much as possible, and never really put them over your shoulder. Not a good idea. So, yeah, so that's, I think, most people have had an experience like this. But it's a learning thing, that only happens to you once. And once that's happened once, it'll never happen again. So, because hopefully we'll learn from that. Cool. Now, what have we got? Yeah, I was talking about different light. Well, okay, so if you're a macro photographer, then one of the things you got to do all the time is you got to light your subjects. And again, with this whole system, you can attach, like, I mentioned these goosenecks earlier, but you can attach little lights to that. So you've got this Lume Cube here, which is basically just this tiny little cube light, and you just simply press a button, ta-da, and then it turns into a really powerful light. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that's basically, you can crank up the power in there. Now you can see anything. But this is brilliant. You can put little filters in front of it as well and stuff. And you can just set this down. You can connect this either to the same Platypod that your camera's on, or you can have separate ones. And then you can light your scene really well. There's a whole bunch of toy photographers, for example, who use these sort of lights all the time. If you check out Dave the Bear Maker or Jesse Feiereisen, for example, they use these kind of tools all the time to light different toys and create these images that look like they're like from Hollywood movies, and they're not. They're just toys, but you'd never tell. And most of the time, you can't really tell. In fact, I interviewed Dave the Bear Maker a little while ago on the podcast, so go check that one out. That's a really great episode. And Jesse Fryerson is going to come on the show in the not too distant future. It's a few weeks' time, I think, come on the show. That would be interesting. Also, very much a Star Wars aficionado, as you know. You probably know there are always Star Wars references in the scene. If you look closely, there's a Mandalorian there, and if you can see that, let me see. There's Baby Yoda right there. Anyway, that needs to be said. Anyhow, so David, your camera fell on the ground too. Well, I hope it survived. Let me know if it survived or if it's still suffering from its battle injuries. Cool. So different lights. I mean, again, you can attach all sorts of different things to that. There's LumeCube. Actually, just talk about LumeCube for a second. LumeCube makes some really awesome lights. I think, we're so lucky, really, because everything is interconnected. There's so much interconnectivity going on between the different tools that we use and how we can control them. And what that does is it gives us all this flexibility in really, in like honing down exactly what we want for the shot, especially when it comes to lighting. And so one thing you can do with the Lume Cubes or with this panel, this little LED panel, the Panel Pro, you can connect them to your phone via an app, and then you can adjust everything on the app. Like for instance, you can adjust the brightness, so you can turn the brightness down and down and up. And with the Panel Pro, what you can do is you can change the color of the light as well. So you can experiment around. You don't have to necessarily always walk over and fuff around with like buttons and whatever on the light itself. You could just do it all from your phone. How awesome is that? It's really incredible. If you think like even just a few years ago, that would have been completely unthinkable. And so even the way I light this scene, usually when I'm recording an episode, there's a light up there, and I just have an app on my phone, and I can just basically look at my screen, and I can just turn it up and down, and I can decide whether I think it's lit enough or not. Anyway, so that's really cool. And one thing that's never amiss, also some German beer. That also has to be done. I was going to say it's a Friday night. It's not. It's a Tuesday night. At least over here in the UK. If you are listening or if you're watching from anywhere else on the planet, let me know where you are, because that would be super cool to know. Anyway, so that just gives you an idea, I think, of who Platypod are, and what stuff they do. Super innovative, really cool tools that make your life a lot easier. Really, it just solves a lot of problems, and that's what we like. Okay, cool. That's pretty much it for today's live stream. And again, if you're listening from all over the world, then let me know in the comments. That'd be very cool. I'm hoping to make more of these live streams, maybe every week or every fortnight or something like that. I'll announce them a little bit. This was a little bit ad hoc tonight. I just felt like it, but we'll do something, and I'll announce them a little bit further in advance so that people can tune in. But yeah, it's good to see you, and watch out for the next episode. Again, if you're Jerry Gionis is the episode that's out at the moment. Head over to any podcast platform, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It should be on there. Or of course, if you're that way inclined, you can also watch the podcast on YouTube. So do me a favor, do that. By the way, and again, one of the things that helps a lot, it really does help massively, is if you do like the show, do us a favor and subscribe either on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, for example, because what that does is it really helps the podcast being found. So if people subscribe, then what it does is it tells the algorithm that people are listening, and then when somebody's searching for something, either on, let's say, Apple Podcast, or on Spotify, or on YouTube, if they're searching for something photography related, then it just comes up high up in the search. And what that means is it just gets found more easily. And of course, that's a good thing. That's what we want. So do the flavor, head over there, and if you like it, give it a like and hit the subscribe thingy button, whatever they say. Hit the subscribe button. That'd be awesome. So yeah, thanks very much, guys. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've had any tripod related stories. I always love to hear those stories. There's always something that goes wrong, and what that means is there's always a problem to fix. And again, that's what I love about Platypod, and that's why I'm super thrilled that they've come on board. And I'm sure we'll be hearing and we'll be seeing more of the guys from Platypod, not necessarily only on the show, but also, again, remember, head over to the Platypod YouTube channel as well. Give them a follow, because there's going to be some interesting, really cool content that's going to start happening on there from next week or so. So yeah. Anyhow, nice to hear you. Oh, one more thing before I forget. Obviously, I've got to mention that. I've talked about the Platypod, for example, in different environments. It's super awesome to use on ice, for example, or on rocks. And if that's the kind of thing you like, then you may by now be aware that Dave Williams and myself, we are running a number of workshops in the Lofoten Islands in northern Norway. And if you're into that kind of thing, it'd be amazing if you could, check it out. Go to idavewilliams.com/education, I think. Check it out. These workshops are really one of a kind. They're awesome because we're gonna teach how to, or Dave's gonna teach how to photograph the Northern Lights. That in itself is incredible, because there really is nobody better than Dave Williams when it comes to shooting the Northern Lights. The man's literally written a book on it, or several books even. So that's a unique opportunity. But then we'll also have a Viking model there, a full-on real-life Viking model. And these guys are incredible. So they're like full-on Hollywood Vikings with the whole shebang, like the armor and the weaponry and the whole thing. And we're going to learn how to photograph our Viking models, not only in a sort of studio environment, but also out in the wild, like in the Lofoten Islands, in their natural habitat, quite simply. So that's going to be incredible. So I'm going to teach the portrait photography part of it, and we're going to learn how to use off-camera lighting, how to pose, how to create some really cool images in that environment, which is, just a once-in-a-lifetime unique opportunity. Then we're also going to, teach landscape photography and a whole bunch of other things. Plus, there's a whole editing side as well, so we're going to go into that as well, the post-production on those kind of images. So it's everything you need to know, all wrapped into 1 week of craziness. It's going to be super fun, amazing. The Lofoten Islands, let me tell you, one of the most, if not the most beautiful landscape on the planet. Absolutely breathtaking. It's really incredible. If you thought Iceland was wild, the Lofoten Islands are wilder. It's incredible. There's so much to see. The landscape's incredible. The animal kingdom there is just nuts. So, amazing. Anyway, so, head over to idavewilliams.com, check out the Lofoten Viking workshops, and yeah, let me know what you think. Anyhow, cool. Well, hang on, we've gone, I switched to Olympus, so I don't have to carry a tripod as much with long lenses. Yeah, I mean, okay, so that's a good point. Final point for today's live stream. So I know a lot of people who've switched to smaller systems, because of the weight. That's actually a really good point. Although, of course, over the last few years, with the the emergence of mirrorless cameras, for example, a lot of the full frame camera brands like Canon and Nikon and so on, they really have shrunk in size dramatically. I mean, even Again, this is a full frame DSLR, so this is not a mirrorless camera. That's a Nikon body. And that was a smaller body. So this is a D750 that's already much smaller than, let's say, a D810 or a D5, D6, something like that even. So that already is considered a smaller body. And that's why I originally loved it so much, because it's just a little bit smaller, lighter, and when you put a big full frame lens in front of it, still the whole thing is really heavy and it weighs a lot and it takes up a lot of space. But even that, in comparison to the Nikon mirrorless cameras that I use now, that is a chunky brick. So already when it comes to mirrorless systems, they are a lot lighter and a lot smaller. That being said, you're still looking at fairly large lenses. So that's the other thing with those. And the contemporary Z lenses by Nikon, or the modern mirrorless Canon glass, for instance, it's incredible what they've done in terms of materials and so on and so forth. And they, of course, weigh a fraction of what they used to weigh. The old Nikon glass, it was like solid steel or whatever it was. Like you could roll a tank over those, which made them super sturdy, but also, they were like weighing you down quite a lot. So that's changed a little bit. But of course, I know a lot of people who have switched to smaller camera systems like Micro 3, I can't talk. Anyway, and crop sensor cameras, like, Fuji cameras, for example. That's why I like the Fuji X100 series, the X100F and the X100V. They're super small cameras. They're beautiful cameras, great cameras. And by the way, I like that particular series because it has a fixed lens. So it just means I don't have to take any other lenses with me. And you might find it limiting. It's not limiting at all. It's actually freeing in many ways. We'll talk about that maybe in a different live stream. But yeah, and Olympus, of course. Olympus is the other thing. I hear that a lot. And yeah, I mean, that absolutely is a thing. Weight is a thing. And again, that's why I really love taking the platypod with me, the platypod and a handle. It saves me having to drag a whole tripod around. And even if you think like I have a Manfrotto, what's it called, the B3 little travel tripod that you can get in two versions. I think there's like a carbon fiber version and like the regular aluminum version or something like that. The aluminum version it's not particularly heavy, and the carbon fiber version is even less heavy, but they're still chunky. They're still chunky. You got to put them on the side of your backpack or something. You still have to carry this thing around. And I like to take stuff on my Vespa. So I have a little Vespa. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like a little scooter type of thing. And I often go, especially if I have to go into London, I often go and do photo shoots on the Vespa. And so space is premium. There's not a lot of space. I have to take a backpack. And if I don't have to have a tripod attached to the side of my backpack whilst I'm on the bike, that makes a big difference. And then, of course, there's a little bit of a storage area under the seat on the Vespa. And again, if I don't have to take a tripod, it's huge. And again, the platypod solves that problem for the most part. So again, very cool. So yeah, David, I'm with you on that. I think originally, when I didn't switch to the Fuji X100 series. I sort of added it as an addition to what I was doing. And the main reason why I did that was because I found that when I went out with the family, for instance, with the kids, we went into town, for example, and I took my Nikon camera and a couple of lenses, because you always think you need more lenses than you actually need. What I found was that I actually came back with very few photos, and that's because it's a real kerfuffle. Having to take your camera out of the backpack, put a lens on, switching lens over and all that. So it's just too much kerfuffle. So I figured that if I just pare the whole thing down and create a system that's smaller, meaning one camera with a fixed lens, no additional lenses, no nothing, then what that would do is it would basically motivate me to take more pictures. And that's exactly what it's done. It just means, it's so small I can have it in a coat pocket, we're in the UK, you wear coats for most of the year. Yeah, it's super small. You could just take them out, and so you end up taking more pictures, and it's actually it's really very satisfying. And I know you can I know you can do the same thing with your cell phone or your mobile phone, and maybe we'll do a whole episode or live stream about that in particular, because again, there's amazing opportunities when it comes to mobile phone or cell phone photography, of course. But again, I think sometimes in photography, what all it takes is motivation, and whatever motivates you to take photos, whatever works for you, is great. It could be just the handling and the feel of a camera. That's exactly what I love about the Fuji system. It's just there's dials on there and buttons, levers, buttons, dials. It just feels great. It sort of almost, I don't know. That's just something. Something when sometimes when you're used to driving an automatic car, and then occasionally you get to drive a stick shift or a manual car, it just feels like you get to put some effort into it, and you get that satisfaction back out of that. I remember years ago I used to drive this old Land Rover Defender, and I had a stick shift, and basically every time you shift gear, it's literally like, the thing is like basically a crossover between a tank and a lawnmower, something like that. But every time you do shift gear, it's literally it's like half a yard. It's like 2 foot. You'd have to shift that lever. And it was incredibly satisfying to do that. It felt great. I wouldn't want to drive that car every day, all of the time. That'd be crazy. But once in a while, it felt really good, and that's exactly how I approach using the Fuji camera. I just love to take it out. When I went to Sweden, I didn't really go to Sweden for any particular purpose other than to have a few days away with my wife. And of course, I was going to take a camera, but I also didn't want to take all the camera gear, because on one hand, I wanted to spend some time with my wife, and on the other hand, it just wouldn't have been appropriate. But I did want to take some really cool photos, and I'd never been to Stockholm before. It was a great opportunity. It's such a beautiful city, and I wanted to capture that in a way. And so, having a smaller system, like an Olympus, or a Fuji system or something like that, or your cell phone, absolutely, that works too. So that's a great thing, and I really enjoy taking pictures with my phone, absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes I do both, or actually always I do both always. That's the thing, I take some pictures or maybe some video on my phone, and then if I want to post something to social media, Facebook and so on, then I obviously I do that from my phone. So, or I want to edit something, I do it from my phone. So that's quite fun. But yeah, we can maybe talk about it next time. We talk about different types of cameras and what we use them for. There's all sorts of other things. There's Instax cameras, Polaroids, if that's the kind of thing you're into. All of that's very cool too. So yeah, cool. But that's something for another Tuesday evening, I guess. Anyhow, so yeah, thank you so much for joining into this live stream. And, remember, I'll check out this week's episode with Jerry Gionis. If you want to learn more about Platypod, head over to platypod.com. And, of course, if you're interested in the workshops, the Lofoten workshops, head over to idavewilliams.com and check them out there. They're really phenomenal. Nobody else does workshops like that. They're really unique and absolutely incredible opportunity. Anyhow, so that was our first proper live stream. I'll see you again. I didn't really think I'd be able to talk through, I don't even know how long we've been on here. It's like 45 minutes or something. I didn't know I could talk for this long. Apparently I can. There you go. That's why I make podcasts. Anyhow, good to see you guys, and I'll see you again on Thursday. Over and out.